Like back in the day, we find that there were a lot more women that stayed home with the kids and were homemakers, or what people call them nowadays, which I love, domestic engineers.
I don't love that term
Why don't you love that? I think it's awesome.
because I don't think you got to fancy it up. I
I
think I think a woman's job in the home is so valuable and so necessary and so needed. I don't think you got to throw that big fancy title on it to make it seem like it's more.
Hold on a second. What do you
What?
mean to make it seem like it's more?
Hello, Covenant Army. Welcome back to the podcast. You're back here with Brent and Lucy. Good morning, beautiful. How you doing?
I'm feeling good.
Why are you smiling so cheesy for? Too much? Too much first thing in this morning?
No, you always have that like radio sounding
Oh, really?
kind of voice when you kick it off. It's
Oh,
pretty funny.
okay, cool. I hope you always have that kind of view of me, like it's good morning, waking up and ready to start your day and get out there and, get doing it.
It's a great morning this morning.
It was a very early morning this morning. Very early. We got up.
It's a little earlier, wasn't that? That
Girl,
wasn't that early.
okay, it was a different routine
A different routine,
because
yes.
we had to go to the labs this morning, get some blood work done. Well,
Yep,
you did.
I did.
So it required us to wake up a little earlier and not have our coffee first thing, it's a little different.
Which I will say, thank you for driving me. I really thought that I was just going to hop in the car since the lab is like 3 minutes down the road. I thought I was just going to go and get it done, but you wanted to drive me. I thought that was kind of nice of you.
Well, I did want to drive you. I don't like to send you out into this crazy world all by yourself.
Mm,
I want to
Very
make
appreciated.
sure you're taken care of.
Yes.
So
So it's a little bit different routine, but I like that it's right down the street, pretty quick in and out, back home
yeah,
to have our coffee.
that's kind of rushing to the coffee, but we packed it up to go this morning, which is again, you got to overcome and adapt, man.
That's right.
You got to work together as a team to make it happen because we had to make sure that our son got to school on time this morning. We don't want that to get taken off course because that just jacks everything up. It
Yeah, it
makes it
does.
it takes the it's just rushing, and I don't like to rush first thing in the morning. And then it throws off the time for the gym, and then it throws off the time to do any.
Throws off the whole day.
It just does. How you start your day off is so so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we got all that done, got him to school, got back home, made our breakfast, and then we were able to sit down and do our devotions. And love doing the devotions, and we talk a lot about the devotions because that's a big part of our day. Just
Keeps
to
us connected.
Yeah, I was gonna say keep us connected and focused, like, together on God.
Well, there's usually awesome topics that kind of stay with us throughout the day.
Yeah, and
I feel.
I it always comes in handy. It does. Talking with couples, and it just keeps God's on the forefront always.
Didn't you find it interesting that sometimes in talking to couples, doing different sessions, that some of these topics that we discuss in the morning in our devotion actually are useful?
Every time. That's what I'm saying. Every single time. Like there's God's word is so important in our lives,
Mm.
and it's so valuable. I mean, it's literally like having a treasure box of truth available to you if you open it up and look inside, and then applying it to daily life.
Simple truths.
And he gives you the right word at the right time.
Yeah, he does.
And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to do life any other way. I mean, to keep it simple, I've done life on my own, and doing it with God is the best, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, I really wouldn't. So, looking at the devotion as we were talking this morning, it gave a really great question because it was talking about teamwork. Um, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today on the podcast because teamwork is a key element, I think, in having a successful marriage, working together as a unit. And we talked about doing the blood thing this morning, and just being able to get everything done.
Blood work, not the blood thing.
Okay, blood work.
Blood work.
Blood work. I mean, you really didn't do any work. You just sat there and they took the blood from you. Should it really be called blood work? I mean
Yes. Yes.
I get what you're saying, but
The people there work
yeah, but you don't work. I mean, you just
to
sit there
get
and
the blood.
just give the blood. You make the blood and they take the blood. Make the blood and take the blood.
Anyway,
The point was, I'm totally lost right now.
well, it
But
was more of a balancing act in the home of who's doing what kind of work. Like back in the day, we find that there were a lot more women that stayed home with the kids and were homemakers, or what people call them nowadays, which I love, domestic engineers.
I don't love that term
Why don't you love that? I think it's awesome.
because I don't think you got to fancy it up.
I
I think a woman's job in the home is so valuable and so necessary and so needed. I don't think you got to throw that big fancy title on it to make it seem like it's more because it's such a job within itself. And I
so
think it's
hold on a second. What do you
what?
mean to make it seem like it's more?
Why do you got to throw domestic engineer on
I
there?
think domestic engineer sounds awesome. It almost feels like I need a paycheck
Okay,
for
and
being
there.
a domestic engineer.
Okay,
You don't agree? You
I'm
don't agree that the work that the domestic engineers do in the home?
you're missing the whole point what I'm talking about right now.
Just
My
saying.
point was I don't think you need that a title. I don't why's it got to be engineer? That sounds so impersonal as far as a wife and a mother. I think those titles themselves hold all the weight in the world. I don't think you need it. I mean, if you want domestic engineer and you need that on your title, and I'll print you a little name tag up. We'll throw that baby right
Hey,
on you.
listen here.
I
The
mean, if that
point was that
you see what I'm saying though?
no, I don't see what you're saying.
How do you not see?
Um, because you're saying it sounds like it's more than what it is. It's almost like you're
I didn't say it sound like it's more
you
than what it
did.
is. I'm just saying
You did.
you don't need that title.
I didn't say I
This
needed
is
it.
my own personal opinion. That
I just thought it was kind of a nice little twist.
okay, and again, if you like that title, have that title. I'm just
I
saying
really could care less for titles, honestly.
for
But
myself, I just don't think it's necessary. Now, again, if you like it, have at it. I just don't think it's necessary.
nobody said necessary. I just thought it was cool.
Okay, it's cool. Domestic engineer, go ahead. What's your
Now
point?
I don't like it anymore.
What's your point?
Anyway, point is, stuff inside the house still has to get done. I don't care if you're called a housewife, a homemaker, domestic engineer, whatever fancy title wants to be put on there. Like, it doesn't matter. Stuff still needs to get done.
I agree. What's your point?
So you said we don't need to make it more than what it is. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, almost like it's not a big
That's
job.
not what I was saying.
Okay, well,
That's not at
I'll
all.
go ahead and let you apologize.
Okay. We're gonna go down this whole rabbit hole, or we're gonna go back to what we originally started talking about. All I was saying is that title, again, people like titles. So if you want to be a domestic engineer, be a domestic engineer.
I love it.
I think
I love it that when you recognize that maybe you may have misspoken,
if I hurt
that
your
you always go back and say, all I was saying was,
if I hurt your feelings, I apologize. That was not my intent. I'm strictly talking
uh,
about that title. In my opinion, mom, wife, like that's the pinnacle. Domestic engineer, that falls down somewhere in here in like some job that someone has that, you know,
mm,
you hear what I'm saying? Like that's not here. That's what I was trying to communicate for me. And again, if you like that title, have at it. I'll get you a shirt that says domestic engineer.
I don't need a shirt.
I mean, come on.
The point was,
My wife is a domestic engineer.
the point was
Yes.
that back in the day, there were a lot more women that stayed home
Mhm.
to take care of the house stuff,
Yes.
and the husbands would go out to work to
Yeah.
provide.
Mhm. Yeah, there's very distinguished roles that took place in the household, and I agree 100%.
Now you see more of both husband and wife going out to work to provide equally.
I wonder what the number is on that, like, how many? Because I know here lately there's been more of a trend on traditional wives and that kind of traditional households, traditional marriages where they're trying to go more back to that way of thinking where the husband holds his particular role and the wife holds her role, and I know for a long time they really tried to blur the lines on, the whole feminism and that kind of stuff, and I know those are trigger words for a lot of people, but the point is, like, there became a blending of the 2, and there has been more of a push to go back toward the traditional thing because you're right. I mean, if we look around at just the people that we know we come in contact with, most homes have the husband and wife both going out to work to some
So,
degree. Both of them
just
are
a,
going
a
out.
quick stat,
Yep.
just pulling it up here
Mhm.
on Google.
Yep.
Says according to recent data, approximately 74% of mothers with children under 18 in the US work outside the home.
74%. So that's almost 75%.
That's huge.
That is a huge number
Hmm.
of two-parent homes
Yep.
that are going out to work. And I understand why, right? I mean, I understand why I think, and again, this is my opinion. Everybody's going to hate me for this. I think that most of us, um, how can I say it in a nice way? We
Oh
want too
boy.
much stuff. Like we want to live this life that requires a lot more money to have to live that kind of life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you want to buy more stuff. So you need to make more money to get more stuff.
Well, because I think back, and it may have started back. This is really going to get a lot of people going. Back in the 50s, when I think about the 50s, because I just love the whole atmosphere of the 50s.
Hmm.
And when it came around with that whole the American dream, and everyone wanted to have the American dream, where you're able to have the house, have the car, have the wife, have I say the wife, have the kid, have the marriage, have the kids. It was kind of that dream of having it all, if you will. Well, now, and we've heard this said before, like now it's become almost like the American nightmare because the whole picture has changed of what it really looks like to succeed. And it's taken so much more to accomplish that.
So we weren't trying to get into a lot of like the material side of things, but more so like what does it look like inside of the home if both parents, mom, dad,
Mhm.
husband, wife, are working outside of the home to equally provide? What does it look like when it comes to
Hold
the
on.
domestic engineering of the home?
And we were going to get there. I wanted to paint the backstory to give a
Hmm.
little more to the context.
Yes. Okay.
Because going back to the devotion is really what sparked the conversation for us this morning. And once
Hmm.
I read it, or we read it together, it's like, ooh, that's a good one. Because we hear a lot of couples talking about it. And I just want to share this one statement,
Hmm.
right? Oh, I just lied. I want to share two statements. The first statement, and it was talking about expectations, right? It says, and it was talking about society and how it's changed over the years, which we just talked about. It says, currently, however, more wives work outside of the home than follow the traditional role of domestic engineer. There it is again. And that's what we were just talking about, right? But it goes on to say that if the wife is going to work outside of the home and play an equal role with the husband in financial provision, then will he, the husband, take an equal degree of responsibility for household tasks.
Mm.
And that was the whole thing that kicked off the big conversation for us this morning. Like, if you got both people, the husband and the wife, both working outside of the home, which you just read a statistic there, which was 74% do. Out of those 70,
Approximately
approximately 74 people that do, 74% of people that do,
mothers. 74% of mothers that have
okay.
kids under the age of 18.
The whole point is if that many people are out there where both parents are working, the husband and wife are both working to financially provide, does that husband also take an equal role in helping take care of the household as well? Because ideally, if you look back at traditional homes, the husband was taking on the provision side as far as going out and making a living, taking care of that, and the
Mm.
wife would be the one taking care of the home, right? 100% of it. He was taking 100% of the provision. She was taking 100% of the home. Now, fast forward to today, where both of them they're going out to bring in that 100% of the provision.
Mhm.
Is the wife only one is the only one still taking care of 100% of the home? Where in essence, like the devotion was sharing that where she now feels like she's working two full-time jobs.
Mhm. I
So,
mean, any woman out there that has done the stay-at-home mom thing and they're taking care of the home and the kids, like, it is, like, even more than a full-time job, I find, because you don't really stop. You kinda go from one task to the next until you go to bed at night. So it
okay,
is you work longer hours.
I understand.
So it would feel more like 2 jobs, like you just finished your outside job and now you're getting home to do the inside job.
Okay.
So I guess it would be a question to find out if that's what's happening in a lot of people's homes. Like, are you guys doing equal work inside the home too?
Well, and that's really the question to see if that's truly happening. Because again, in marriage, if we're supposed to be equal and we're supposed to be teamwork, supposed to have teamwork, and we're supposed to work together as partners,
Mhm.
a team, do those tasks also work throughout all the other tasks that we're having? You see what I'm saying? Or is you look confused. Is that husband coming home to help take part of that 100% of that work that needs to get done? You know what I mean?
I mean, you're a husband,
Well, thank you very
so
much. I appreciate that.
so you can give us your opinion.
Well, I'm going to be a little biased because we're together 24/7, 365 for the
Mhm,
most part.
mhm.
In case something medically happens and I wouldn't be there. But other than that, I'm going to be there. And we work together,
But
right?
we have seasons that you have worked outside of the house and I have been in the house.
Yes, I agree. But I'm just saying, as of right now, we share everything. Like we do everything together. I
Right.
mean, that's providing and also taking care of the household stuff as well.
Yes.
And we've kind of done a great job of sorting different things out, which we found our strengths that could, again, accomplish the main goal of the house. Because the house has to be taken care of, right? Just like we got to pay our bills, we also need to maintain this house that the Lord has given us.
Mhm.
And we function together as a team to accomplish that mission. Now, even in the household, I mean, this is just our example. Like, I do try to take care of the stuff around outside of the household when I'm talking about like mowing the lawn, taking out the trash, like the stuff on the outside to
Mhm.
maintain the outside of the stuff. And I don't know. I just think it's more my job to be able to do that.
Okay.
I'm better in the heat than
And
you
I
are.
will let you do that all day.
I don't have to worry about my hair getting messed up, my makeup running, like all that
Yep.
stuff. Because
Like,
I like to keep you looking beautiful. Like
I'm good. I'll
you're
stay in the AC.
and that's kind of some of the tasks that we've decided. Okay, that's probably better that I do this or you do that. But we're in agreement on it. You know what I mean? I'm like
Right.
we're not fighting against it.
But
There's no
looking back to the seasons that you did work outside of the home, you still came home
I'm gonna get there. Why do you keep?
and were very helpful.
I appreciate that. Yes, I'm just gonna get there. But like on the inside as well, we function as a team on the inside as well. Like even when we're doing laundry,
Mhm.
one typically is the one to put it in, and then we both kind of fold it and we put it away together. It's kind of like, and again, it's what works for us.
I fold, you hang the clothes. That
Yes,
works better.
yeah, I like to hang the clothes.
And I
So I'm
find
assuming
that
you like to fold it.
I I just find that I fold better.
Towels. I think you fold towels better. In my opinion, I think you fold towels better because you got this special little roll up, twisty little rub. This thing you do look like
Have
little
you ever seen me
animals.
refold, like, shirts that you folded and stuff like that?
I think you go behind me and fold everything that I fold. So, man,
And it
if
hence
that's
the
what makes
reason
you happy,
why folding is my thing, and then you can hang whatever needs to be hung, and it
I'm
works.
the point is the fact that we've developed that pattern that works for us. Now, and in our marriage, we have found that we haven't got caught up in a lot of the weeds of the little stuff. Like even when it comes, and I'm just talking about stuff inside the house.
Mhm.
If it comes to washing dishes or putting dishes away or like that, we found our rhythm to accomplish the goal at hand.
Yes.
We don't get lost in the sauce. We don't get lost in the weeds of, oh, you're not doing this and you're not doing that.
I think that's where couples miss it sometimes because they do get caught up in how much each are doing,
Hmm.
and again, I think you're missing it when you get caught up in, "Hey, I'm doing more than you. Why are you not doing this?" And I feel like both of us have a certain level of equipping that God has given us
Hmm.
to do certain tasks quicker, better than the other.
Yeah.
So I think when you get caught up in trying to compare, I think there's other things underlying that are happening when a couple is getting caught up in, well, I'm doing more than you. There's something else. There's
Well,
other resentments
well,
happening.
yes, I was going to say that's what it talks about bitterness and resentment set in when you feel like we're not a team and things are equal,
Right.
right? And that's not saying you don't have different roles. And I think so. That's where people get lost in the sauce. Saying that we are a team and that we're equals. And again, it's like you said, we don't keep records of these things, but we've come to recognize like God has created us both very differently.
Hmm.
We are not the same per se. Like I'm a man, you're a woman. There's strengths that I have and there's strengths that you have. And the same thing with certain weaknesses.
Mhm.
We've just found out how to kind of manage those strengths and weaknesses to our advantage.
I think it's interesting. I saw a post not too long ago that I think it was a woman posting it
Mhm.
like basically I can do everything that my husband can do.
100%.
Like a woman can do everything that a man can do. I agree with that.
Mhm.
But as soon as I read it, I was like, okay, I can vibe with that, but why would I want to?
That's the first thought I had when you said that.
That's what I thought when I read it. I'm like, why would I want to?
What's that Bible verse? And I need to know. Here we go again. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And I think I just paraphrased that. Or just because you can doesn't mean you should. It's in there
Mhm.
somewhere.
Mhm.
Find me that address so people know I'm not crazy. That's why I love reading the Bible because the Holy Spirit just brings things at the perfect time. And I think that's the perfect example. Just because you can doesn't mean you should,
Right.
right? A woman and a man, yes, there's a lot of things that we can do 100%.
So it's First Corinthians 6:12.
Hmm.
And it says, I have the right to do anything,
Hmm.
you say, but not everything is beneficial.
Mm,
I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything.
okay.
So all things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable. Just different
Yeah.
translations there.
And it's all the same message that I see. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
And I'm thinking about when you said I take care of the outside of the home.
Hmm.
Like when you're out there mowing the lawn, I can go out there and mow the lawn. I've done it before.
Yeah.
I don't want to. Like you do a great job. Like I can let you do that all day because yes, heat and me don't really get along unless I'm swimming. Then we're good.
Yes.
But yeah, like why would I want to?
We don't have to. I mean, and I guess the point that I'm trying to share, like, is why in this area that when we don't work together as a team for the overall goal of what we're trying to accomplish,
Mhm.
and we have unrealistic expectations for each other or different ideas, and we got two different goals again, that's where the conflict starts to come to the surface. And if it's not resolved, that's where bitterness and resentment starts to set in. And that's where you
Mm.
get into that mindset where you start keeping records of wrongs.
Well,
That's
I
really
think if
where
there's other things happening in the relationship, this is where it becomes more
evident.
evident.
Mhm.
Like you start feeling resentful, but it's not those things that are bothering you. There are other underlying things that have not been resolved
Mm.
that are kind of like making you seethe
Yeah.
underneath.
Well, to bring it back to the whole topic at hand is like it's a balancing act
Hmm.
in the household for a husband and wife to function effectively. It is really a balancing act to find out again what our strengths and what our weaknesses are and how we bring them together to work together. Again for the good. And first of all for God's honor and glory, right? And then also for the honor of our marriage that we're not fighting through everything.
So let me ask you this,
Yeah.
because there are times where, if when we wake up in the morning, you typically are the one that gets, I mean, obviously you get dressed quicker. You don't have too much hair to do in the morning.
Yes.
You usually run out and start the coffee and get that going.
Mhm.
Make sure our son is up, getting ready. And I get up, start getting ready and trying to get my hair picked up, whatever. Sometimes by the time I get out of the bathroom to fix the bed, because that's usually something that I do before going out, you've already made it back to the room, fixed the bed, and went back out to continue what you were doing in the kitchen.
Mhm.
What makes you do that? Like, why? What would make you not want to just stay in the kitchen and you're just making the coffee and not go back in there to make the bed when you know that typically, like, I'll get it once I come out of the
Mhm.
bathroom. So I just want to know your thoughts there.
Well, to keep it simple, and I've kind of been saying it throughout this whole podcast, is like I think of the overall goal that we're trying to accomplish, right? And again, because I know it's beneficial for us to sit down together in the morning before we take our son, because it gives us time to
Hmm.
kind of regroup, come together, and get on the same page before we start our day.
Mm,
And I've noticed those times when though they're absent, we don't have those times to come together. It's a little more hectic, and it seems a little bit like we're behind the ball.
mm,
So knowing that the overall goal is that we have that 10, 15 minutes where we can come, we can relax, we drink our coffee and just kind of begin to ramp up.
mm.
That's the ultimate goal in that moment. So if I see that we're on track and everything's happening, and what I mean is that we got, again, throughout our time living together, we've come to realize what we need to do to get there. Like we know the steps that need to happen
Right.
for us to have that time. So I don't look at it like these are your things and these are my things.
Right.
I don't look at it that way. I
Mm.
look at it, these are things that we need to get done and accomplish.
But I love
So,
that. I love that because a lot of people get caught up there. That's where they have the arguments. That's where the
mhm,
fights ensue is in those moments of, well, I'm doing everything
mhm,
and you're not doing enough.
mm,
But I love that you have gotten to that place where you're looking at it as a whole.
mhm,
What's going to be beneficial for us as a whole?
yeah,
Because if this is the goal, I want us to get there together.
mhm.
And if I can, I'm going to. And I see you do that regularly and selflessly. So thank you, because that's awesome that you've adopted that mindset.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. But again, and I know people that listen to podcasting are like, okay, here we go again. But it's the truth. Like it's only by God that I've gotten to that place. Because there has been times in the past where resentment starts to take root because I haven't always thought that way.
So you have expectations.
Everybody has expectations,
Right.
but I know it's through the fruits of the Holy Spirit, right? That God has been working on me and is continuing to work on me because I don't get
Mhm.
it right every single day. I would be naive and lying to you if I say sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm just going to drag a little bit here and see if she can pick it up because, today I'm not really feeling it as much.
Mhm.
And in those moments, definitely more so now than previously, I feel the Holy Spirit, just what you said. If you can, you should. He gives me a little nudge in those moments, like, you know what? I can do this. And I'll just
Mhm.
go do it. And the fruit of that in our marriage is that you see that and you see
Mhm.
God working through me in those moments because you know me from before.
Mhm.
Like we've been together a long time and you know the previous Brent and you've seen the progression of how God has worked through our marriage and transformed my heart, my mind, and for you as well. I've seen it.
Mhm.
And it's in that time for both of us that we've seen God working that
Mhm.
encourages us to keep pushing forward. It makes me think of Paul's like, hey, don't stop the race, continue the race that God has out planted out for you. And I know I'm doing my paraphrasing that I like to do.
Mhm.
But in essence, keep your mind on the end goal that you're shooting for, that you're racing for, and don't give up. And in our marriage, I think that's one of those things that's kind of brought to the surface that continues to give me that push like, you're not there yet, but you're going to get there. Just don't get tired of doing what's good, right? Galatians, don't get tired of doing what is good because in the end, you'll reap a harvest. And I've seen it time and time again where God's word is true. And I believe it with my whole heart.
Mhm.
And I see it. And I just can't wait for the next thing that God shows up because he shows up all the time. And if you're paying attention, you don't miss it.
And I'm not saying that, if you're in a marriage where you do feel like you're doing everything
Mhm.
and your spouse is not helping, I'm not saying that you don't have a conversation with your
You
spouse
should.
about it,
You should
right?
have a conversation.
Again, I really love it. When we have X, Y, and Z going on, I would really love it if I could get a little bit more help in these areas. Like, what do you think we can split up so we can get to the objective
Mhm.
of the day, right? The goal.
Mm,
How can we do this together? You don't have to start with the finger pointing and saying, well, you don't ever, because that's not going to get you anywhere.
mm,
But I feel like sitting down and saying, hey, we have this goal
mhm,
that we're trying to accomplish. Do you think that it would be possible for me to get a little bit more help in this area so we can get there quicker? I think that might be better.
mhm.
It's always better not to point the finger. Let me just put it that way.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's not you don't have that team mentality if you always feel like your teammate's trying to undercut you.
Right.
Um, One thing I would add to that, what you're saying is that you need to do it. Well, every day you guys need to sit down and talk. Like every day that's part of that time of us in the morning coming together is like if we have something we need to share with each other, we've carved out that time to be able to share it with each other.
Mhm.
And because we do it every single day, stuff doesn't build up.
Right.
We don't come down and sit like it's the only time we got together the week. We've got this 15 minutes and we're trying to cram a week's worth of complaints and concerns in that is just feels like this overwhelming negative interaction that we're having.
Mhm.
So having daily conversations to, in essence, air things out it's not a negative time when we come together,
Right.
and we recommend this to a lot of couples, like, you need to have at least bare minimum a weekly meeting where you and your spouse come together, you can talk about things that you want, like goals you have coming up and where you both see that you can grow or something that you need more of or less of.
How you can help each other.
How you can help each other because it's that team mentality. Because the
And
last thing you wanna do is get into that place where you feel bitter and resentful with your
mm,
spouse because things are out of balance.
well, and it reminded me of that verse in the Bible, Colossians 3:23,
Mhm.
where it talks about, whatever you do, whatever you're working on, basically work on it as unto the Lord wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't have that mentality when they're doing something for their spouse,
Mm.
or if their spouse is not meeting their expectation.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you kind of like you were saying, like, at a time where you just, I'm gonna fall back to see if they come in and fill in the gap. Well, aren't you playing God in that situation where you're trying to almost kind of manipulate or control the situation?
Mm.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I think that's another good point before you wrap up is remember why you're doing what you're doing. It's just not so you can have a better marriage. I mean, of course you want a better marriage, and that's a good reason to keep in front of mind, but that cannot be the only reason.
Mm,
Like in your marriage, you should be doing things because you want to honor God with your marriage. You want to
yeah.
honor God with this role that He's given you as a husband and a wife to bring glory to God. Because we look out in this world, man, and there's a lot of marriages that are in a hot dog mess because people aren't thinking what I'm doing right now is hurting the heart of God.